Hi, Sandy.
Hi. Let's see. You are Deborah.
I'm Deborah. Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Are you new to these evening presentations or have you?
Yes, this is
Oh,
my first one.
oh, terrific. Well, I am coordinating the program, so I get the speakers and put all of this together. So any input that you have
Well,
along the way would be very appreciated. If you have ideas for speakers or
okay.
to do things, that would be great.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to go try to collect my cat. Excuse
Oh,
me.
certain.
Hi,
Hi, Danielle.
can you hear me okay?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Great,
excellent.
great.
How are you today?
Good. I've been with the grandkids for a week, so
Oh, very fun.
it's very fun. They just got out of school the middle of last week, and we decided to take a vacation. So we're by the beach. We're here in La Jolla.
Oh, yes, that's
Wonderful.
wonderful. I heard that there's a peregrine falcon nesting in La Jolla, like in the town, like on a building somewhere.
Oh,
So
you're
you'll
kidding.
have to look out for it. Yeah.
I will, definitely. So that's in like in the Prospect area, you think?
Yeah, that they said it was like in town, but I'm sure if you look
Wow.
online, somebody maybe on eBird or like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
here, but
definitely. Oh, I will definitely have to look that up.
yeah, that'd be great to see.
Yeah. Are you all set up? You think you've got everything
Think
ready to go?
so.
Okay,
Yes, I should
great,
be good to go.
great. Well, we had a lot of people sign up for this, so I'm assuming
Awesome.
they're all going to come on all at once, you know?
Very good.
Yeah. Do you go to the fair, Danielle, or are you the
I haven't
county?
ever gone.
Oh, you've
Is it,
never gone?
is it fun? Yeah.
Oh, it is. It is. It's, you know, for years I went simply to see the plant exhibit. They have really good gardening exhibits. Um, and then, I kind of I hadn't gone very much till the grandkids came along and now we go, you know, like one day in a season. And it doesn't change that much. It's amazing.
But interesting enough each time you go, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's good. That's the Del Mar one.
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay. Nice. I'll have to make it out. Have you done any birding in La Jolla so far?
Um, oh my gosh. Well, I haven't been down to Prospect for like years, really, to spend any time. And so today was the first time that I've seen it since they have a new trail that follows along the cliffs there. It goes, from where the park is at the end of Prospect and then north beyond where the caves are,
Oh,
and then like through, just right on the edge. And it's just thousands of pelicans and cormorants. Just amazing. On the cliffs, I see how the pelicans sleep now. They go to these cliffs where there's growth and there's kind of little low-lying trees or shrubs that they sit on top of, And
uh-huh.
I did see some baby pelicans. They're black.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That's
And
It
awesome.
sounds like somebody's got their mic on that we're hearing a background. Do you hear that?
I did not hear it, but that's frequently maybe
Hi, Kurt. Maybe it's you or
it
somebody
might be
has the
Kurt.
background. Yeah,
Yeah, I
we're
think it was
picking up.
Kurt. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
I
Kurt.
just muted him, so
Yay, thank you.
although he may want to talk, but he can come on. Yeah, that's kind of aggravating when there's background noise like that. Hi, Tina. Good to see you. Is everybody hearing me okay?
Yes.
I don't have my usual setup, so. So I'm going on Saturday to Oceanside, the Juneteenth festival in Oceanside on Saturday. And we will have a booth there going to Vista Audubon. So I've never been. Has anybody been?
I went last year.
Oh, you did.
Yes.
Any
It was
anything that was special that you think we should look for or
it was very festive. There's
oh,
music, there's a lot of joy and celebration.
that's great. Yeah, that'll be a new experience.
Love it. Excuse me for just a moment.
And there you are.
Danielle, have you been busy at work?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's field season has been a lot over the spring and then now into summer. And uh, I was doing I was working until like 11:30 last night. I did
Oh my God.
a night survey with USGS for the bullfrogs at the pond. So it's yeah, a late night of working.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun, but I don't know if I'm cut out for killing bullfrogs.
Oh,
It's really sad, honestly,
oh,
but
I bet.
yeah, I just have to remind myself that they're invasive and they're eating all the other good native things. So yeah, it's it's
Is
tough.
it the African bullfrog?
Oh, the African cloud. It is the American one from like the East Coast, and
East
Okay.
Coast, yeah.
they're huge. They can be like 2 pounds, and yeah, there are at least hundreds in the pond.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
That's not good.
Yeah, Buena Vista Audubon's pond has probably at least six.
Oh no.
Um, yeah. And boy, they are hard to kill, and they can travel really far. And yet
Wow.
we still have you can hear the native frogs, if you listen really hard, and you hope that they're hiding.
Yes, exactly.
Oof, I saw a bullfrog once eat a wood duckling.
Oh,
Like
oh
No.
my
if you
God.
they call them gape limited predators. If it can get it in its mouth, it can eat it. It's
Wow.
Oh,
amazing. So
oh
many
my
reasons
God.
to not
They
like
have big
them.
gapes, so it's not that limited.
They
Yeah.
have a big gape. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Do you plan on like managing any of the bullfrogs, or are they not like such an issue quite yet?
I don't think there's anybody at Point Vista Audubon that's cut out for that at the moment. And it so far it hasn't gotten out of hand. It's a very small pond. Um, and we occasionally will see like herons out there hunting. So we're like, get the bullfrogs.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Or
So,
natural
so,
fishermen for sure.
mhm.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so far, no orchestrated effort.
Wow.
So are they are bullfrogs are invasive species here in any area, Southern
Oh
California?
yeah, they're just an East Coast species.
Oh,
What I know, Danielle, you might know something different, but what I've read is that they were brought out because the gold miners wanted frog legs, and our
oh
native
Exactly.
yes,
frogs had
yeah.
little
Really?
legs. And of course, whenever we do that, they escape.
Oh,
French gold
And
miners?
yeah, from the what, 1850s, 1840s.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks, guys.
Has anyone eaten bullfrog legs before?
I've had frog legs when I was a little girl in San Francisco. My,
Wow.
my uncle
Yeah,
took us
I had
to
them too.
Fisherman's Wharf,
Yeah, I've had frog
and they
legs.
were considered a delicacy, I guess then.
Tastes
And
like
all I
chicken.
remember is it did taste like chicken
Yeah, that's what I
at
remember.
5 years
Yeah,
old.
I've had them, but I don't know if they were bullfrog legs.
Yeah.
You would recommend you would eat them again, or was it like a you had to try it and you're done type of thing?
It was very tender, but very little meat.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
little tiny legs.
Yeah.
Goodness. I'll have to try it.
I mean, bullfrogs to me sound like they would be tough, but just because of the name.
Definitely.
Well, this is our last for this before the summer. We'll have July and August. We will not have presentations, so we will start again in
Oh.
September. And we're actually in September, for those of you that have been coming regularly and are used to doing this on Zoom, we're actually going to have an in-person presentation in
Oh.
September. So the woman that owns Wild Birds, is it Wild Birds? It's a bird seed and bird equipment company, is going to be presenting, and she does very dynamic presentations, a lot of which she uses, hands-on. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to do it live, is to be able to have her come in and show us how to make our backyards more bird friendly.
Lovely.
Yeah, so that should be interesting.
Is it the Carlsbad store?
It is, yes.
Sylvia?
Yes,
Oh, good.
exactly. Yeah, so you know Sylvia?
Well, I know her from shopping there, yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, she's given quite a few presentations at different groups, related to nature, and then also homeowners associations and things like that, and they all have raved about her, so I'm excited. So we have just a couple of more minutes and then we'll get started at 7.
Okay.
So I'm in La Jolla, taking a little staycation by the beach with my grandkids, and Danielle just told me that there is a peregrine falcon that's nesting, is it, Danielle? In La
Yes.
Jolla, downtown La Jolla.
Yes.
Oh, really? Not
We
along the
have-
cliffs, but downtown.
Yeah, downtown. So we will have to hunt that down.
Yes. Look for the tall buildings somewhere, I imagine.
Yes, and there's only a few, so
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully you see it.
but we've been lucky so far. I mean, the weather has just been great. We're not getting the real socked in grayness that we usually get in June, you know. We've had it in the mornings, but it's broken up and really nice.
Why do you think they do not want Bill Pulte to step foot into a DNI headquarters? Why are they moving heaven and earth?
Somebody's
Bill
got
Pulte
that.
would understand
If
exactly.
somebody has their TVs on, you can mute it. So I'm going to welcome you all to this presentation, and we have Danielle Parsons here tonight, who's going to share with us the work that she's doing at the Escondido Creek Conservancy, and talking about the power that we have as individuals and people to work with plants and work on wildlife restoration. And before we get started with Danielle, I'll ask Tina. Tina is going to do the land acknowledgement.
Yeah. Thanks, Deborah. Everybody, all of us who are living in California are have settled on the unceded territories of at least one indigenous nation, and in some counties, multiple indigenous nations. Here in North County, we're on the land of the Payom people, who are also known as the Luiseños, named after the river, San Luis River. Plants are a really important resource in Payom culture. In the creation stories, everything that existed before humans came around were not just considered, were animate. Rocks, sand, soil, trees, vegetation, plants, all sorts of things were animate. That's in language back then, that mattered because it's a very sophisticated language, and animate and inanimate have different endings and that sort of thing. And sometimes you can see that sort of creeping in. Most of the time now, those sorts of things have inanimate, are inanimate in the language, but they began as animate. And plant resources were so important for food and shelter and clothing and medicine, all sorts of things. And the plant gatherers are highly valued. It's an occupation in a Payom community. Amy Admire, who works with BVAS, is a plant gatherer in Rincon. And I've learned a lot just from listening to her talk. The language reflects this in that the word tu means to grow, as in a plant. And a plant gatherer, the language is called Chantela, which they refer to it as a Chantela, which means our language. That happens almost all the time in indigenous nations. If you get what is the name of their language, it's oftentimes our language. Plant gatherers, their name, you can hear the tu in it, is tu nikat. The suffix nikat means one who does grow plants and they're not like farmers because they don't plant seeds on plots of land and do that. But what they do is look for where plants are growing well, or at least growing, trying to grow, and then work to restore and enhance that environment there rather than bring them in. They will bring them in at times, but the goal, the dream is to enhance the environment where the plants have chosen to live. The term for, I love this, the term for compost is tunilash, which it makes sense because ilash means where something happens. So that's where plants happen in what we call compost. They call tunilash. And a fourth word is tunish, which if you look it up in this very otherwise quite sophisticated dictionary, it refers to it as the magical words that the plant gatherers spoke to the plants to help them grow. Somehow the word magical is a little bit odd because who doesn't know people who talk to plants? Maybe you talk to plants. It's the same sort of thing, except that this was basically their job in the community, and they helped to get the best plants possible where the plants existed. And I'm using past tense. I should use past tense because they are doing it today as well. So it's a tangential connection to Danielle's topic, but plants are so important to the local indigenous communities. San Diego County also is the shared space of the Kumeyaay Nation, the Cupeño Nation, and the Cahuilla Nation out toward the mountains. So thank you. And I turn it back to Deborah.
Thank you, Tina. Well, I want to welcome Danielle Parsons for joining us this evening. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about her background. Danielle is an ecologist, and she is eager to share her work with us tonight, which is dedicated to native plant stewardship and habitat restoration. Whether she's on her job or in the free time, you will find Danielle outside with her camera, photographing nature and connecting with our non-human neighbors. Danielle earned her master's degree in ecology at San Diego State University and has worked for over 10 years in supporting stewardship projects with many land management agencies, which has led her to the Escondido Creek Conservancy. She is striving, along with her coworkers, to meet the mission of the Conservancy, which is to preserve and restore the Escondido Creek Watershed. This presentation will introduce the creek habitat, and it covers, I was just amazed, at 75 plus square miles of land from inland Bear Valley to the San Dieguito Lagoon and the ocean. And Danielle will examine the role of plants and people in restoring the Escondido Creek habitat and discuss the birds and other species which will benefit from this restoration. So we will also learn how a vegetation community regrows from a barren landscape after wildfire. And Danielle will explain how plant traits of diverse species collectively facilitate community regrowth and reduce the risk of invasion by non-native plants. And with that, I will hand over the presentation to Danielle and ask that if you have questions, save those for the end, and we'll have a question and answer period. So Danielle, take it away.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. I'll get this set up. Can you see that all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it. And I love that Tina's land acknowledgement actually was extremely spot on with my introduction, almost strangely. So yeah, I will just dive right in, but thank you all for being here today. So as I said, we are all here today because we all have one thing in common, and that's our love for birds. And my love for birds begins with my Grandma Jones' garden. My grandma is extremely adept at connecting with animals and wildlife, and especially plants. And she always taught me that a gardener must always speak to the plants with love and appreciation, which is exactly what Tina was pointing out. And I've carried this relationship with plants into adulthood. I've been working as a field botanist for the past 8 years, monitoring California's flora. And a lot of that work is focused on rare plants and endangered species, but often I'm observing their loss in population due to invasive species taking that over. So I kind of got sad monitoring a lot of these native plants going away. And so I started focusing on other things while I was monitoring, and that's when birds became more than just an appreciation, and they turned into more of a hobby, and photography got a lot more fun and exciting. It was also around this time when I needed to do something different, and that's when I found restoration. So instead of monitoring the decline of these native species, restoration gives me the opportunity to actively engage and steward the landscape and make a difference. So this is one memory I have from 5 years ago, and we tried to fit way too much mellow lotus into this little dumpster that we removed out of Alvarado Creek when I was with the Soil Ecology Restoration Group. Today, I find myself grateful to be working for the Escondido Creek Conservancy. This was the last time I was in the pond. We're doing a lot of restoration, and that is something I'll speak about later. So to introduce the Conservancy, if you haven't heard of the Conservancy, it is a wonderful local nonprofit land trust established in 1991. And the Conservancy stewards over 3,500 acres, although they've helped make 7,000 acres protected in perpetuity. And this year is actually the 35th year of conservation that the organization has been going, which is very exciting. So it's a really good year to get involved with the work that they do. If you don't know where the Escondido Creek Watershed is, it is 25 miles long. Oops. It is 25 miles long between Lake Wolford and ending at San Dieguito Lagoon. I think the Buena Vista Creek is just a nearby watershed, but we're all in this Carlsbad hydrologic area. Now, why would we need to restore this creek when, if you've been to Elfin Forest, you'll see that the creek looks like this? Unfortunately, not a lot of the creek looks like that. Escondido Creek is an impaired water body listed in 1994. There are 3 dams and 6 miles of concrete channel currently on the creek. In addition, there are toxic levels of chemicals, back to Rachel Carson, there's still DDT, pesticides, all types of hazardous chemicals that are in the water, and that means all the wildlife and plants are absorbing it and ingesting it. In addition, there's lots of encampments and trash that is pretty common sight along the creek. So how could any animal really survive in this degraded habitat? It's pretty surprising. There are some species that are generalists, and they are making a home for themselves, like the barn owl or this house sparrow that made a nest under a solar panel, or the hummingbird that decided to nest on my outdoor lights. However, there are specialized species that are not able to adapt to our urban environment. And this really touches on the relationship between plants and birds. So zooming out, plants sustain habitats by providing food and nesting architecture. They are the basis of the food web that all the organisms really depend on. And within this realm, birds are indicators of ecosystem health because they're sensitive to these changes in suitable habitat. And that's often why we can use birds as a guide for restoration projects, because their needs are so specific that if we help them, then we're going to help the whole community thrive. Diving into this idea a little further, a common phrase or a title for a species like this is an umbrella species. So the burrowing owl is an example. When we protect the burrowing owl and its habitat, the entire community is also supported. Another key term is keystone species, something you might be familiar with. Without this species, the entire ecosystem collapses. And if you're unfamiliar with the relationship between these two species, the burrowing owl doesn't actually burrow, but the California ground squirrel helps dig those burrows for the burrowing owl and a variety of other species. So without the California ground squirrel, none of these species would have a physical home to live in underground. And this is also due to their evolutionary relationship. Over time, they've been creating this symbiosis together. So symbiosis is a close, long-term interaction between two species, and it can be negative, neutral, or positive. So here's a question for you all. If you can write in the chat. What's an example of a native parasitic relationship between two bird species in San Diego? If you're feeling shy, no need to type it in, but at least think about it in your head and come up with a guess. I'll give you a hint. And if you're feeling brave, feel free to, say it out loud if you think you know. I can't actually see the chat in my window. So I will let you know. It is the brown-headed cowbird. So you get it, cow, bird, flying cow. So this brown-headed cowbird, many of you might be familiar with, it is parasitizing many nests of songbirds. I think there's over like 220 species of songbirds that it will lay an egg or two in a nest of another species. And when that egg hatches, it will push out the other species' eggs or their little babies, often before they're hatched. And so then the mom comes, like this junco, and she doesn't know that it's not her own baby. And so she ends up feeding it and raising it. Yes, so this is an example of a negative relationship. I'd like to focus on something a little bit more positive, and that is mutualism. That's where both species benefit. You're all familiar with plants and pollinators as a beneficial relationship. And I've come to realize recently that restoration is a form of mutualism. So restoration is mutualism, which means that when we repair degraded ecosystems, we are supported in return. Restoration is also repairing relationships. This is something new I recently learned. So native is not just how long an organism has evolved in one place. It is the entire web of species that are connected and co-evolved with that species. And then in contrast, there's invasive species, which we touched on. These are non-native, they spread aggressively, and they lack those co-evolved checks and balances. And to kind of wind down on this introduction of topic, general ideas that will come into play, I'd like to lastly touch on habitat recovery. So habitats can recover on their own, for example, after a fire or a flood. However, and this is called natural succession. However, if the disturbance is too severe, then the habitat may not be able to recover and it may convert into another habitat. This can often happen after grazing or if invasive species have dominated. And that's when community-led restoration comes in. And that's what I'll be discussing with you all today. I will be sharing 3 stories of restoration, local, all happening in San Diego County, and they reveal how plants and birds depend on one another. There'll be 3 different habitats that I'll focus on today, and 3 birds, each connected to its own habitat. So to begin is coastal sage scrub. This is a story of natural post-fire recovery. Coastal sage scrub is one of my favorite habitats. However, many people don't know that it's actually one of the most endangered ecosystems in the United States. And this habitat is drought deciduous shrubland that stretches from Central California to Baja, Mexico. This Mediterranean climate that we have has shaped the evolution of this habitat. So these species, the plants, the wildlife are adapted to wildfire cycles. So another question for you all, feel free to type it in or just think about it in your head. What coastal sage scrub umbrella species makes this call? Any guesses? You know it, feel free to say it. This is an easy one.
I did not hear that, Danielle.
Okay, let me turn it up.
Yeah, we didn't hear
How
it.
about this? Can you hear that?
No.
Okay.
I think
Let me,
we've had this problem before that the
yes, let me fix
vocoder
that.
hides the sound
Yes.
if it's not your voice. Unless you do there's some way to bypass that, but I don't recall it offhand.
I just have to do that. Thank you. I forgot to do that. 1 minute, everyone. Minor difficulty. It is. There we go. Oh, shoot. I had known where I was and now I'm not able to find it. Show computer sound. Where did it? Well, that's frustrating. No.
Forget about it.
Oh, sad. Okay. Well,
Have to just pass on that.
sorry about that. Well, let's pretend that you heard this and it sounds like a mewing call.
Oh.
Does anyone know?
Gnat catcher.
Gnatcatcher.
Yes, good
South
job. Okay, excellent job. So the gnatcatcher is the coastal sage scrub umbrella species. It is listed in 1993 as a federally threatened species. And this is a resident songbird within San Diego. And it'll build its nests about 3 feet off the ground in sagebrush habitat. So this species is connected to coastal sage scrub wildfire cycles in a peculiar way. Coastal sage scrub is often cited as a 76-year average wildfire regime, which means between fires, it averages about 76 years, typically before modern era. However, with urban encroachment and climate instability, we're experiencing more frequent and intense wildfires in Southern California. That's leading to invasive grasses and increased burning occurring. And if you can believe it, that interval has been cited as reduced down to 5 years between average burns in a lot of the coastal sage scrub in Southern California. And when that regime is shortened, the plants don't have enough time to properly regenerate on their native cycle. And that allows these invasive grasses to come in and eventually displace the native habitat. So locally here in San Marcos, if you're familiar with the Palomar College Arboretum, a wildfire occurred on the mountain. There is coastal sage scrub, and I had the opportunity to study this within my master's research. So this is the year of the fire. You can see it completely scorched the landscape, leaving practically nothing. And only 4 years later, this is the same spot, and the landscape has bounced back incredibly well. So my question going into my research was, how does this plant community recover post-fire? So 2 years and many samples later, with the help of my advisor, Dr. David Lipson, and Mike Simpson with the SDSU Herbarium, we began looking at the plants first. If you're familiar with your native plants, these are 4 coastal sage scrub species that are common. We have deerweed is a nitrogen fixer, which means that it's converting atmospheric nitrogen into a usable form for the plant in its roots. And that's actually a symbiotic relationship with bacteria that it has. There's Yerba Santa, which has rhizomes. These are underground tubers or stems that allow the plant to move across the landscape underground. Bush mallow also has them, and black sages are slow-growing species with no exciting underground traits. So here are those species again, and now you can see what their root system looks like, where they're getting nitrogen. And why I'm focusing on nitrogen is I realized in my research that nitrogen is a key nutrient, and if not the most important nutrient after fire. A lot of nitrogen is lost after fire. And since nitrogen regulates growth and productivity, it's kind of a mystery how these species can grow with such little nitrogen. And after fire, these species also have traits to bounce back. So deerweed is the only non-resprouting species, meaning it will germinate from seed after fire. The other species have the ability to resprout or also reseed. So those are their traits. Taking those into mind, the results that we found are, in a nutshell, wildfire is not the end, it's a reset. The post-fire flora collectively maintains low soil nitrogen. Low soil nitrogen inhibits invasive plant dominance. And the most surprising result was that deerweed is actually fixing nitrogen. We confirmed that, but it's not increasing soil nitrogen or soil fertility as we expected. It's actually making very nitrogen-rich seeds to help itself regenerate after fire each time. So how can you apply this to your garden? What does all this mean? I would say that a diversity of traits is something one should get excited about and really strategically think about having all types of traits in your garden. We have fast and slow growers. So fast species are going to often outcompete the invasive species that might want to creep in your garden. These slow growers are going to take a long time, but they're going to use very little nutrients and resources. So they are often the ones that end up being the winners in the long term of succession. You can have nitrogen fixers. Even though I said that they don't increase soil nitrogen, they're still inputting nitrogen into the system that wasn't there before. So they're pretty much fertilizing themselves. And lastly, my favorite from all of this are rhizomes. So find plants that have rhizomes. And the amazing part about them is that they can acquire nutrients from far away on the landscape. And through this process, they also conserve high amounts of nutrients. In my research, I measured a lot of parts of each plant, like leaves and litter were 2 of them. And the surprising aspect for me was that when the rhizomatous species shed their leaves as litter on the ground, they reabsorbed most of that nitrogen back into their tissue before letting that litter go. So that represents a high conservation of nutrients. So I thought we were talking about gnatcatchers. How does this relate? That's a great question. So back to the beginning, gnatcatchers' primary refuge is coastal sage scrub that has not burned for 20 to 40 years. And they depend on these post-fire flora to outcompete invasives and continue on this natural trajectory. So every stage of succession is really important in this. Moving on to story 2 is the beginning of recovery, and this is in our riparian wetland. Many of us are familiar, especially the Buena Vista Audubon, that our wetlands are highly sensitive and diverse places, and they're also severely altered and polluted. These are some fun species that are wonderful to see when you're out in the wetland. And number 2 question, but you're not going to be able to hear this, so that's kind of unnecessary. What bird makes this call? I will just let you all know that it is least Bell's vireo. So least Bell's is our endangered vireo locally. However, it is a migrant. So it's coming from Mexico here in April and then returning after in July. And I was very surprised to learn that San Diego hosts half of the global population of this species during its migration here. And you'll often see the males singing very abundantly in the spring. So a story about riparian renewal. We find ourselves at the pond that I was waist deep in the beginning of my presentation. This is within the San Marcos area and in a preserve called Harmony Heights. We acquired this pond last year, very new and very exciting. It used to be an old hog pond for animals like livestock, and they planted a lot of eucalyptus. So unfortunately, it has a ring of eucalyptus and a large population of bullfrogs. And the goal is to revive native habitat so we can bring back our native birds and also the native wildlife. The first thing that I've done in the last couple of weeks is the California Conservation Corps has begun helping remove a lot of these eucalyptus trees through a state grant. And then a group of amazing volunteers every Thursday, they come out and they help with restoration field work. And for the past 4 weeks, they've helped cut down a lot of small eucalyptus. So they are working really hard, yet still they're smiling through it. And in the wake of eucalyptus removal, we started planting a few species as well and tried to think about the habitat requirements that the least Bell's needs, which is dense multi-layered thickets and a variety of canopy layers as well. As mentioned in the beginning, invasive bullfrogs are an issue in the pond. And here's a happy fat bullfrog sitting in the pond, and these are their tadpoles. There had to have been thousands of tadpoles at one time. And so just last night, I went out with USGS. They guided me on how to ethically start removing these species so that others can thrive. And in the beginning, we also mentioned the green heron, and this champion is actually helping remove those bullfrog tadpoles for me. So thank you, green heron.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, why are we removing the invasive bullfrogs? This is definitely an uncomfortable question because we are in restoration. Sometimes you have to remove invasive species, whether that's a plant or an animal, to protect our native wildlife. So these are some of the amazing amphibians that have evolved here, and by removing those bullfrogs, they can thrive as well, including endangered species like arroyo toads. So along this question as well, I think someone also mentioned this in the beginning, which is amazing. So bullfrogs will eat anything that fits in their mouth, from tadpoles to unfortunately birds, which is pretty horrendous. So another reason why we should be removing them. And then lastly, if you're aware, there is a chytrid fungus, which is causing an amphibian epidemic worldwide. A lot of our amphibians are dying because of this fungus, and the bullfrog is a vector for it, which means that most of them have it and they don't show any symptoms, and they can easily spread it to our native amphibians. So just another reason to remove them. So moving on to story 3, we have oak revival. Many of you are familiar with our wonderful oak woodlands, and in this story, we'll be approaching recovery. So instead of at the beginning of a restoration project, I am stepping into a role where others before me have spent a good amount of energy making progress on this restoration project. So oaks are keystone species. Many of us are familiar with how much wildlife they support. I wasn't aware, but they actually support more wildlife species than any other plant genus on Earth, which is pretty incredible to be able to say that. In California, we have 20 species, but in San Diego County, we have 10. So we have half of the species of California, which is more than any other county in California, which makes sense because we are the most biodiverse county in the California. So this is an Engelmann oak. If you're familiar, this is a rare species and it is endemic to our area. Some people cite this commonly as the rarest oak in the US, and we have it here in our backyard. And it's rare, unfortunately, often because of habitat displacement, of development. But that's why it's really important that we protect these species and we give them more space to grow. This is a tree that I've always wanted to visit and I've heard stories about. This is the great oak. It's sacred to the Pechanga people over in Temecula, and it's still growing there today. It is considered one of California's oldest oaks, over 1,000 years old. And I was surprised to learn that it's still producing acorns even at this age, which is just wonderful. And I feel like this oak is a really good representation of symbiosis between people and plants and wildlife, of course. So it's wonderful to see that they've been taking care of it since 1,000+ years ago. And oak mutualism along the lines, besides people, there's also wildlife that are within a symbiotic relationship with oaks. So many bird species will eat seeds, depositing them and sowing new sprouts. However, there are some species that are planting oak woodlands by harvesting acorns. So here's another question. True or false? Acorns stored in the tree bark can kill the tree. I didn't know the answer to this question. If you know it, feel free to share. So I assumed yes. It is actually false. They typically don't drill past the bark into the living cambium. So they're often not harming the tree, which is really great to hear. And acorn woodpeckers, they love acorns, but I also was surprised to learn that oaks are not their choice of granaries. It's actually pine because they have softer wood to be able to bury in. So here we have nature's hoarder, our favorite oak inhabitant. This is a keystone species, an ecosystem engineer. They can build granaries that are generations old. And the biggest one that they found is 50,000 acorns stored in one tree, which is incredible. And within acorn woodpeckers, they have cooperative breeding groups where it'll be a large group of family members and they'll have multiple breeders, and a lot of the family will take care of the young fledglings, which is a very interesting, like village type community that they have. So another question, which you can't hear, this is tragic. What bird makes this call? I'll give you a hint. There's another species within the oak woodland that is also planting acorns. Does anyone know? Any ideas? So it is my beloved California scrub jay. So this species is also a keystone and an ecosystem engineer. And it's mischievous for a few reasons. So this oak gardener plants thousands of acorns each fall, and many of them sprout into trees. When I say plants, I mean this California scrub jay is harvesting these acorns and hiding them away for later, like caching them in the soil. And often they will forget about them because they're hiding so many. And so some are able to sprout into young seedlings. Mischievous, I say, because I was surprised to learn that the scrub jay often checks to see if they're being watched before burying any of these acorns. And they'll even steal acorns from other birds, including other scrub jays and acorn woodpecker granaries. So keep an eye on these guys. So moving on into the Oak Woodland Revival Project with the Conservancy that has been going on since before my time. This project is on the George Sardina Preserve in Escondido, and there is a severe human disturbance history on site that I have now inherited as my preserve. These are recent wildlife camera footage that I got over the last couple weeks. I was really excited to see a fox, a gray fox, hiding out in the oak woodland. I set up a lot of cameras around the preserve in different habitats, and I only saw it in the oak woodland, which was really, really exciting. And then the deer was also a common sighting. So this severe history of disturbance is really fascinating to learn about on this preserve. So if you can come with me on this time travel journey. So back in before the 1870s, as Tina mentioned, the Sardina Preserve area near Lake Wolford was tended and is sort of. They don't necessarily have the ability to be there anymore. But these Kumye and Luiseno peoples have been tending this area since time immemorial. And then once the 1870s came around, that's when a new era set in on the landscape that brought homesteads. So at Sardina itself, these homesteaders built cattle pastures, they planted eucalyptus, they put 2 dams in the creek that runs at Sardina, and they created a pond for their livestock. That history, you'll notice, was very long, over 100 years of just use on the landscape. And then more recently, if you're familiar with the area, in 1993, Mr. Paintball opened for business in Sardina Preserve, formerly. And so they bulldozed and compacted much of the landscape, creating these terraces. It looks like they blew up sides of the mountain just to create these large terraces for warfare. They also, I was surprised to learn, they dug 8-foot deep trenches for trench warfare, just so people could experience that. And so these people would come. They were open for a long time. And you could do airsoft and paintball, and you'll see this little bag in the center screen here that is airsoft BB pellets, and those are still abundant on the landscape today, unfortunately. So this is what the trench full of invasive species looks like. It's hard to tell, but you can see little divots and inlets. Unfortunately, with all that disturbance and erosion in the soil, it just allowed invasive species to propagate and take over. And also in 2021, that's when the Conservancy acquired this land and made it a preserve, protecting it in perpetuity. This is when restoration began, and oaks, coastal sage scrub, and chaparral were planted on these cleared lands. And this is George Sardina, MD. He is a local conservationist, philanthropist, and doctor who was instrumental in helping the Conservancy obtain this preserve. So the Conservancy named it in his honor. I believe he's also well known in the conservation realm and helped establish other preserves elsewhere as well. So in 2021, these oaks were planted. And what do they look like today? Not too exciting. So here you can see little tiny shrubs in the beginning, and then in the background you see a little bit taller shrubs. So these are all oaks. The ones closer to us all look very dwarfed and stunted, and that's because of compaction on the landscape. They scraped the topsoil, so a lot of these plants are growing without a lot of nutrients. So it's kind of incredible that you can see the difference in height between these plants, and that's just because of the soil disturbance. And this year, and last, the California Conservation Corps, as I previously mentioned, they've been cutting down eucalyptus within the riparian corridor. So this is a better picture of Sardina. Here you can see this drainage in the valley, and that's where a lot of the eucalyptus were planted. And so very slowly, we are etching our way down the riparian corridor. And the California Conservation Corps is an incredible organization. If you haven't heard of them, they train young professionals, 18 to 25, on how to use chainsaws and how to conduct this type of tree removal. So they're gaining hands-on vocational training and job experience. So lastly, this preserve, I hope to continue removing those eucalyptus. I've worked with them to obtain another grant this year, and I'm very grateful for their help. We'll be planting more acorns in the wake of the eucalyptus, and then removing thousands of airsoft pellets from the landscape. Wait, don't eucalyptus provide habitat? I've seen birds of prey nesting there all the time. Yes, that's a great question. They do, but the native co-evolved community supports greater biodiversity than what these eucalyptus can provide. I actually took both of these pictures at the Harmony Heights Pond that I mentioned earlier, and it's incredible that these great horned owls are nesting there. And to protect their habitat, we will, of course, be leaving large dead snacks so that they can still persist and enjoy this habitat as they have in the past. So weaving together these three stories, there is a common thread. Plants drive habitat recovery, allowing birds to flourish. Trait and species diversity creates resilient communities. And people accelerate this or derail it. So this last bullet point is what I'm going to touch on for the conclusion. And that's how can we help? What can we do to support local conservation? I really like coming at conservation from my own personal bubble, and I think that begins with what we're thinking about. And many of us love books, so a great place to start is reading really thought-provoking books that may change the way you think about plants and wildlife and our relationship with the land. Tending the Wild was one of the best books I read. It tells you about what California looked like before settlers, colonists came, and it kind of makes you sad in the way that it was such an incredible space that these indigenous people have been tending. And it's also hopeful because with restoration, we can help make the landscape look like that, maybe once again, a little bit at a time. Nature's Best Hope, I'm listening to this right now by Douglas Tallamy, and it's very encouraging. It's the same line of thought of changing your habits and your thoughts to help bring nature, quote unquote, nature, back into a more resilient state. The other two books, they might be a little bit out there for some people, but I can't express enough how much I loved these books. So Thus Spoke the Plant is by Monica Gagliano. She's in Australia, and she researches plant intelligence and has all these wild experiments that are really questioning what it means to be a plant, and I'll leave it at that. And then Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard, if you're unfamiliar. She's up in British Columbia, and she's also a researcher, and she studies how mycorrhizae and trees are connecting and communicating through this underground network, the soil food web. Pretty incredible work. So moving out of my own bubble, you might have a backyard, you might have a patio, or even just a pot on your front porch. I encourage you to grow native plants. They're considerably easier than some ornamentals because they evolved here and they're used to drought and they're used to low water and they're used to low soil nutrients, which is kind of like neglecting your plants. So if you're not the best green thumb, native plants are actually very forgiving. So if you want to know what you can plant in your area, a really great website is CalFlora. And if you want to learn what to not plant, that would be California Invasive Plant Council. Another fun topic that's come up recently in the years, if you haven't heard of, kill your lawn. This is when you replace your grassy lawn with a diversity of drought-tolerant natives and succulents. If you can't do all natives, at least succulents still provide that drought tolerance and are improving the quality of our habitats locally here in our backyards and our front yards. Something I didn't know that this author, this is Joey Santor, he is providing this kill your lawn idea. And I didn't know that lawns actually cause flooding because they're in such a highly compacted soil from when our houses were built. And so compared to a native habitat, it's drastically different. So this is even a stormwater management practice of getting rid of these turfs. And if you haven't read this book, it actually just came out. It's called Concrete Botany, The Ecology of Plants in the Age of Human Disturbance. I couldn't stop listening to it. I think I listened to it in a couple days, and it was an incredible story that tells local stories of California and then all over the world about just incredible plant knowledge. So highly recommend this book. He is a little bit vulgar, so if you don't like that, maybe don't listen to his YouTube or podcast. But if you don't mind, he's a little bit rough around the edges, but he's a great educator as well. So moving out of your home, I encourage you to join the Escondido Creek's free events. We hold volunteer restoration events, like I mentioned. So every Thursday, we have a group of volunteers come out and do restoration. Like once or twice a month, we'll have shrub clubs where in this picture you can see a bunch of smiling volunteers. This is actually at Sardina. And if you can see, there's a young woman holding a plastic bag in her hand. That is something like 200 BB pellets that they wanted to pick up while they were there. They were shocked that there were so many, and after only a couple hours of picking them up, that's all they had. But I really appreciate that they cared enough to do that. So that's an event you can come to once a month. And then we also have outdoor yoga and guided hikes. We recently acquired the Mountain Meadow Preserve in Mountain Meadow area, and I took the yoga class, and it was one of the best yoga classes, not because of the practice, but because of the view. I've never had the opportunity to sit quietly and meditate and stretch in this mountain landscape. These are free events that I highly encourage you to come to. So you can check out the Conservancy's website as well as our Eventbrite for that. If you're not into organized events, I highly encourage you to go for a walk and bird at the Keithley Preserve. This is connected to the Elfin Forest, and it's free and it's open to the public. And while you're there, I encourage you to take some observations. We have a citizen science project on iNaturalist. And if you observe anything within our preserves, it gets added to this project, and it helps us understand the biodiversity within our landscape. If you don't have iNaturalist, eBird and Merlin are another great set of tools I'm sure you're all familiar with. Lastly, I'm really sad that my audio, I didn't figure it out quite right, because this is an incredible video of Dryad performing. So if you've been to the Elfin Forest, they have an interpretive center, and I think this is the first Sunday of each month. This lovely couple called Dryad perform a musical experience that is all centered around oaks and our native habitat. There are quite a few performances you can still see. It's free, and I highly recommend to go check that out on your own. These are my citations, and that is the end of my slideshow. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. It was great.
Thank you. That was really inspiring.
I just wish my audio
Yes,
worked.
thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
Well, you actually described it well so that we connected with it anyway. I was going to say Scrub Jay, but I didn't have the guts to go out on a
Yeah,
limb
I
and
was
say
thinking
it.
Scrub Jay too. So.
Very good. Glad to hear that.
And if we were going to go, where exactly would we go, like to see, well, the Elfin Forest Keithley Preserve, can you tell us a little bit exactly on the map where that is?
Yeah. So, if you're familiar with San Marcos, Harmony Grove area, and San Elijo Hills, it's
Right,
nestled in that area. Near Lake Hodges. So there's lots of trails out there. Highly recommend.
And is that where the yoga is as well, or is that?
The yoga is at our office, which is also at a preserve called Mountain Meadow. This is on the other side of the 15, more north of Escondido, about 15 minutes. That preserve is close to the public typically, but during these events, we invite people to come do yoga, and then we take you on a guided 2-mile hike through the preserve as well. So yeah, good opportunity to see a landscape that's usually closed and open just for wildlife.
Definitely. So is the Elfin Forest part of the land that you're working with, or the Conservancy works with?
Yes.
So
the Elfin Forest, we partner with I'm not sure if you're familiar, but the Olive Hayne Water District manages a lot of the elfin forest, and we are in a partnership with them. We also purchased land adjacent to that. So we have trails that connect, and yeah, we do a lot of events together.
Well, that sounds like a really great place to go and have an outing. I'm gonna
Yes.
check that out, especially with the riparian and the oaks. That sounds beautiful.
Absolutely. Go find a Least Vireo. They're still hiding out over there. There's actually southwestern pond turtle somehow managing to survive. This is an endangered turtle, our local endangered turtle. And
Oh,
yeah, if you get lucky, you'll see them sunbathing on a rock. Yeah, pretty special place.
oh yeah, that sounds wonderful. Well, thank you. Anybody have any other questions or comments before we leave?
What
Yes,
was
I
the
have a
monthly event that you mentioned?
Yeah, so we have monthly yoga and hikes. That is one monthly event. And then we have another monthly event called Welcome to the Watershed, where we lead a group of people on a guided walk. Sometimes there's some sort of talk associated with it. And then we also do a monthly restoration field activity where we're removing invasive species or doing something of that nature.
And
And
Yeah, encourage
that
people to come.
I'm
more
sorry,
information on dates and things, where would we get that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would recommend starting going on Google, looking for Escondido Creek Conservancy. I'm not sure our website, but it's something along those lines. There is an Eventbrite associated that you can find on our website, and that will keep an updated list of every event that we have coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Danielle, can you send me a copy of your slides? I'm thinking specifically of the musicians that you had in terms of the dates of their performances, and we can
Yes,
get them out to our members as well.
I would love that. Absolutely, I
And
will.
where do the musicians play? Is that in the Mountain Meadow also?
It's at the Elfin Forest.
Oh,
So
at
there's
Elfin Forest.
a naturalist center that the
Oh,
Conservancy helped build, and it's really incredible if you haven't been. There's a mural on the ceiling and a mosaic mural at your feet, and there's all sorts of animals, and it's volunteer run, so it's not open all the time, but it's a really special place to go see.
well, that sounds great.
I have a
I have a
question, Deborah.
question. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yes, Margot.
I'd like to know how you get rid of bullfrogs.
I'm not sure you want to know, honestly.
Well,
How do
I
you?
do want to know because there are a lot of them I'd like to get rid of.
Yeah. Well, the USGS is training me on ethical, and in an ethical way, that just means we're reducing their pain and we're trying to kill them quickly. They use these, imagine there's many ways that you can do it. There's setting up nets so that you funnel them into an area, then you capture them. It's inexpensive, but you can kill them with a type of chemical that they like breathe in that causes them to die quickly, which is a very humane way. Other more for the brave people that like hunting, there are more hands-on ways where you're kind of like, if you've gone spear fishing, you're literally throwing a spear at these bullfrogs. I tried to do it last night and I stopped myself so many times because it was kind of sad. But another way that you can do it is with an air rifle, and that's shooting a little BB pellet at it. There's a lot of ways. It gets a little bit, yeah, I guess you just have to I just have to displace myself from killing this being to, if I don't kill it, I'm killing other native species, right? So, yeah.
But you have to like catch them first. Like you have to catch all the, not pollywogs, but whatever they call the babies.
Yes, tadpoles. So I was learning
Tadpoles, yeah.
it's a numbers game. The tadpoles are easy to catch and they're often eaten. They don't really survive that much and because they're eaten by everything. And then the young baby bullfrogs are also easy to catch, but they also don't survive. So it's the large adult bullfrogs that we want to catch because they can lay 3,000 eggs at one time. And
Oh.
so, yeah, it's a numbers game,
Oh my
unfortunately.
God.
And
Yeah.
then what like gas do you use to gas them? And do you do that, or does the USGS do that, or how do you kill them by gassing them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I personally haven't used it. I'm not sure the name of the chemical, but it's commonly used by like federal agencies. It's expensive, so that I know that USGS sometimes doesn't use it because they can't afford it right now. But it does exist, and I'd have to send you the name of it. I'm honestly not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have them at your house, or are you trying to remove them, or?
Well, the Buena Vista Audubon Pond has its share of bullfrogs.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Oh my
Well,
God.
maybe we'll have to team up one day if you ever think it's an
Yeah.
issue. And yeah,
Yeah, we'll have to dig into that a little bit.
yeah.
Thank
I
you.
have a question.
Yes.
So I'm actually a member of the Escondido Creek Conservancy, and
Amazing.
I'm also a member of Nature Collective, which used to be the San Dieguito Lagoon Conservancy, and I'm working with them. Actually, I'm a new board member as of January, and I'm on the Habitat Committee, and I'm still coming up to speed with all this. But I'm curious if you know, and I guess I need to ask on my side too, do we coordinate with you guys some? Because I know we're doing some restoration in the Val Sereno area, which is part of Escondido Creek. But anyway, I'm just curious, and we're still trying to learn a lot because of, I don't know what the proper way is to do restoration and things like that. So it just seems like it would make sense to coordinate between the two organizations, and I assume there is some coordination at least.
Yeah, thank you, James. Thank you for being a board member. That's huge for spending
Oh,
your time doing that. That's such a great question. First, I'd like to say that if you remember all the oaks that were planted at Sardina, those all came from Nature Collective. So in the past, we have had
mm,
partnerships with them. The most recent is the one you're naming. On the Escondido Creek, there's Val Serena, which used to be a lake, and we're trying to
yeah.
improve that creek habitat together. I understand. So I'll have to get connected with you all because I think we need to do more together and yeah, moving forward because we're in the same watershed. So
Yes, yes. So it definitely makes sense. And I guess there's a lot to learn about, the right way to do it and how not to do it. I don't know. We were on the Habitat Committee, we were talking about possibly hiring a consultant or finding people that had some knowledge. And I know I did talk to, because I know him. I talked to John Rebman at the Natural History Museum, but he doesn't consider himself, he's very opinionated about it, but he does not consider that to be his main expertise. But it was interesting because he talked a lot about how you definitely needed to use local things. Just because it's a California native doesn't mean it belongs here, right? So, and one of the good things with the Nature Collective is they do have that nursery where they're actually growing things from seeds that are from the lagoon. So it is local stuff. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we had some questions about cordgrass because a lot of the cordgrass died when the lagoon got closed up. And there's just a lot to learn about it. And it's all new to me. So,
exciting. Well, that's wonderful. We'll have to connect later on then. Thank you, James.
yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's really good to round out this season and see all the interconnections between the different people that are doing great things in North County. It's exciting. So I thank you And if there's nothing else, I will sign us off. And thanks a lot, Danielle. Hope to see you again.
Great presentation.
Thank you for listening to me chat your ear off for an hour.
It
So
was
thank
really
you all.
great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Take care.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.